Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Buck, Senator Daley, Senator Hammond, Senator Lang, Senator Pazina, Senator Scheibel, Senator Stone, Chair Spearman.
Here. Thank you, and please mark the other members present once they arrive. Welcome to everyone who's joining us here in Carson City. Don't see anyone in Las Vegas, but if you are there, welcome, and welcome to those who are joining us via the internet. These meetings can be viewed, you can participate in these meetings several different ways here. Las Vegas, over the phone. You can also submit comments or your opinion on the legislative website. Just a reminder to everyone who testifies pursuant to Nevada Revised Statute 218E.085, it is unlawful for any person to knowingly misrepresent facts when they're testifying before a legislative committee. And a person who knowingly does so is guilty of a misdemeanor. Myself or any member of the committee can ask you for documentation to substantiate your testimony. And so everyone, please, 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 I did this for mine. Lift it up. If it's not turned off or sound turned off, say, oh, snap, let me get this done, okay? All right, so turn off your phones and anything else that's going to make a noise while we're in the meeting. And so now we'll open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 251, sponsored by Assemblyman Nguyen. The measure revises provisions governing prescriptions. Welcome, Assemblyman.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Yui Nguyen. I have the honor of representing Assembly District 8 in the beautiful Southwest Las Vegas. I want to first say good morning to Chair Spearman and members of the hardworking and most esteemed committee of the Senate, Senate Commerce and Labor.
Flattery gets you everywhere. Keep talking.
I am thrilled to present Assembly Bill 251 as an update to the former Assemblywoman Teresa Benitez-Thompson bill on prescription language from previous session. This bill was caught in regulation in its implementation, and I aim to see this bill through to its end placing. It is important to consider the significant cost saving this law will bring. A large portion of the costs projected by the chain pharmacies are front-loaded costs to integrate the translation software into their complex systems. This is marginal compared to the high ongoing costs of treatment for medication errors or non-compliance. The average cost of a single hospitalization for a preventable medication error is $15,000, which totals in the billions of dollars each year nationally. Experts on healthcare economics agree that costs from language-related medication errors will continue to increase over time unless healthcare provider meets demand for improved translation services. Medication error as a result of language access is 2.5 times more likely to make an error. An average hospitalization for medical error is about $2,000. This bill is going to aim to target the top 10 languages most spoken in the state. And Chair, committee member, if you ask, what are those 10 languages? Well, on top of English, we have Spanish, Tagalog, Chinese, which is Mandarin or Cantonese, Korean, Vietnamese, Arabic, French, German, and Russian. So those are those top 10 languages that we want to make sure that these populations have the ability to have their language in the prescription direction. And we're not asking to change all of the 6 on the prescription bottle itself. This is simply the direction part. So when the doctor or the provider prescribe a prescription that says take 2 pills twice a day, that part only will be translated so that it will reduce those error when a patient has more than one to manage. And Chair, with your permission, I would just go over the amendment that was submitted. As you see through our process in the Assembly. I want to make sure that I acknowledge the Retail Association of Nevada on their effort to work with me on this bill and ensuring that we come to an agreement to look at some things that were stuck in regulation during the interim. This law was not able to be implemented previously because of this particular language that we need to add in. So with the amendment as amended, line 24 on page 2 of your reprinted bill in front of you, if it is impractical to include the information required by subsection 6 of NRS 639.2801 on the label or other device which is affixed to the container of the prescription in English only, a pharmacy may provide the information in English and the other language in a separate document. If it is practical to include information in English on such a label or other device, the pharmacy must also include information in the other language on the label or other device. And with that, I conclude my presentation and ready for question. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, Senator Pazina.
Thank you so much, Chair, and Assemblyman Nguyen. It's always wonderful to see you. I have a question more about how this would work on a daily basis. If someone were to ask if the prescription could be provided in French or German or Mandarin or one of the other languages that you mentioned, is there a pharmacist who's able to ensure that all of the meanings and all of the dosage information is correct? Just because I know that can be something kind of complicated when it comes to interactions with medicine, and I just want to make sure that someone is reviewing all of this and the different languages that has the professional certification to know.
Thank you for the question, Senator. Through you, Chair, through...
Just go direct. Go direct.
Thank you very much. Yui Wen, for the record, as it's in standard practice at the moment, the practice has actually been done already in terms of pharmacies, even before the legislation came along. So it's really awesome to hear that some of these things are already been done. So in previous practices, pharmacies would have access to a translated line that they can call and be able to give the information to the patient verbally. In this instant, we know that pharmacies across the state already have the translated software. This is just simply making sure that the directional part is on the label. So there are services existing for the rest of the medication information, like drug reaction that you mentioned, some of the information about the background of the drugs and why this is helpful for the patient. Those things are not in this particular bill. This is just simply for the direction part of how many time and the frequency and the amount of pills that they take or the amount of medication that they take per day or whatever the instruction is. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but existing services already exist for the rest of the information that a patient may need to ask the pharmacies, and the pharmacists have ability to call a language line that help, and those services already existed before this.
Additional questions? Senator Stone.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Assemblyman. Appreciate your presentation, and I appreciate that you came in to speak with me. And I shared with some concerns that I had about this. So, just briefly, I want to just get a kind of a real-life scenario of what the pharmacist does. Some people say that they just count by fives, put the pills in a bottle, and give it to a patient. And believe me, there's a lot more to it than that. And our role of being just dispensers is really changing into more of clinical adaptation and consulting. So when I'm filling a prescription, prior to me retiring at the end of this month, but we have to make sure that a physician's order is appropriately transcribed in English right now on a label to make sure that the doctor's orders are clearly written. And then it's our responsibility, of course, that we have to pick the correct drug or the generic substitution, put the correct quantity in the bottle, and also drugs come in many dosages. We got to make sure we didn't pick the wrong dose. We got to pick the right dose. And then in Nevada, just like it is in most states, we have what's called mandatory consultation. So we have to go and we have to consult with the patient, because not everything that is on that label is something that if a pharmacist does not convey to a patient, that they can be sued for malpractice. And it's not uncommon for pharmacists or pharmacies, especially those that are employed by retail pharmacies, that they make a mistake or they don't appropriately counsel. That is the standard of practice, and they can be sued for that. So I'm going to give you some examples. We all know what the drug Vicodin is. It's a narcotic, right? Very commonly used for pain. Hopefully in quantities no more than 20, and hopefully the patient recovers from their pain after that. But we have to put on the label, may cause drowsiness, do not take with alcohol, do not operate with, do not operate dangerous machinery. And if we don't put those warnings on there, and if somebody has a toothache and they take the Vicodin at the pharmacy, they get on the 45-minute ride home, and they get in an accident and kill somebody, that pharmacist is going to get sued, that pharmacy chain is going to get sued, or that independent pharmacy is going to get sued. So those are warnings. Now, there are also allergies, but of course, hopefully the patient is going to one pharmacy so he can monitor what he or she is getting and identify those allergies. And if there's an allergy found, then they call the doctor and change it. And then they have to communicate to the patient why the drug is not the drug that was ordered. But I'll give you another example. So if a doctor writes a prescription for an antibiotic, let's say tetracycline, okay, that has drug interactions. So if a patient is being treated for a peptic ulcer, they may be taking Maalox as well. And you have to put a warning on the tetracycline. Actually, you got to put 3 of them on there. You got to put one saying, don't take with dairy products because calcium binds with tetracycline. You can't absorb it. Don't take with Maalox or Mylanta because it binds with magnesium and other electrolytes that are in there. And another warning is, do not wear a sunscreen if you go out into the sun because you can get a really bad burn. So here's my concern. My concern is that your label is only going to be transcribing the physician's order. And you told me when I spoke with you that there was no way with the software systems, I think you referred to RAND, that these warnings, these improvised warnings that a pharmacist is required to consult with a patient, there was nowhere for that to be put on the label. So I think that's a flaw. And I hope it's something that I can work with you and amend and ensure that those important instructions and warnings are conveyed to the patient. And now I know that you said there's a telephone service in California. That's the requirement of the law there, is that you have to be able to provide for translation in not just 10 languages, but any language. So the pharmacy has to provide a phone number, and they can work together to make sure the patient understands not only the directions for the physician, but the warnings from the pharmacist. So then you also, I think you said in your testimony that the software already exists for almost all the chain store pharmacies. So you've consulted with them, and there's no issues of implementation. They have the software that can immediately translate into 10 languages without any delays. I'm happy to hear that. So I guess the big issue for me is going to be liability, and not just the liability. I mean, I want to make sure that I'm giving the best advice to a patient when they come to see me. I personally, in my lifetime, have filled about 5 million prescriptions, and I can tell you that in my dispensing, I've never had a lawsuit filed against me for an error that I created or didn't appropriately do something in the best interest of the health of the patient. So I know that you've got some indemnification clauses in here, but your indemnification cannot, I believe, indemnify a pharmacist for not fulfilling their professional duty to inform the patient of the warnings that could cause morbidity and mortality associated with the dispensing of that prescription. So I'd like to know how you plan to address the pharmacist interaction and the pharmacist's professional duty to inform the patient of the potential hazards of what this medication side effects are and the drug interactions that could potentially happen with those drugs.
Thank you, Senator, for the question. Yui Nguyen, Assembly District 8, for the record. First, congratulations on your pending retirement. Now you can focus on doing your 3 other jobs.
There you go.
You are correct. There are many things that in a pharmacist environment that requires to ensure that we are in compliance and ensuring that minimal disruption to the process in terms of implementing this law or any other kind of things that we're proposing to do. With regard to your comment about the consultation that happens, the mandatory consultation that happens, those are verbal consultation, as you know, and you are aware. And this is why I'm bringing this bill up to address this, because as a patient myself, when these mandatory consultation happen, is either through a drive-through window or a kind of semi-private environment where there's people behind you. So sometimes the conversation happens really fast, and I know it's mandatory, and mostly the patient go, yes, 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 and then it goes into one ears, go out the others, because if they have 6 prescriptions that they're filling for the first time, there's just a lot that they're going through. So this bill is to address the most important part of that entire prescription process. The drug reaction and the warnings and things like that. Right now, I think if this bill was to include all of that, I think we would have a lot more to work on, because the pharmacists and the pharmacies are not ready for those steps. The intention of this bill is to simply have that direction, the take 2 pills twice a day or whatnot, be in another language, because that is the most needed part in terms of the population that I get to serve. Those directions sometimes get lost if you have more than 2 or 3 prescriptions to manage. And that is important, that is in English and in another language. So it's not taking away anything that the pharmacist is already doing. This is enhancing what the information could be available, so there could be a better understanding. I know that the drug interaction and some of the things that, like indemnify clause, those things, we are not addressing those things in this particular bill, but I'll be happy to work with you, Senator, on things that you would like to see, how we can make this bill better. I'm very open to that, so I look forward to your direction, since you are a licensed pharmacist yourself, and your education and knowledge will be very helpful to how we can help serve better Nevadans.
Thank you. We're going to go to Senator Daley.
Can I
and
just,
then
can I
Senator
just follow
Lang.
up?
Briefly?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
So I appreciate what you've said. Yeah, pharmacists, they give quick consultations, but most pharmacy softwares, at least in the chain stores, they will print a sheet that has a label, and they have all the ancillary warning labels that are on there, or some, such as myself, mine actually fits all those warnings on that prescription label, so there's nobody that can peel off a label and say I wasn't warned of these things. And I know you say that the directions are the most important part of it. I'll disagree with you. I think that the warnings are equally important, because that can cause some significant morbidity and mortality if those are not appropriately communicated. But I take up your offer. I would love to work with you and try to make this bill better. I appreciate the thought behind the bill, but I believe that these warnings have to be communicated, or a pharmacist is probably not. A pharmacist has a choice. They don't have to fill a prescription for any reason. If they think somebody's overusing narcotics, they can say, sorry, we're not going to fill your prescription. So I want to make sure that you're not going to run into issues where a pharmacist is going to say, hey, I'm putting myself in harm's way by filling this prescription because they're getting directions, but I can't communicate to them the warnings that I think are very important in filling this prescription. So I look forward to working with you.
Madam Chair, if I have your permission, I have a phone a friend standby just to follow up on any things that I cannot answer. Is it okay if she can come out and?
Sure. Yeah.
I have on the
What was the question? I almost forgot. What was the question?
on the warning labels
Okay.
and the
Okay.
drug
Got it.
reaction. So I have Charlotte Glass, Public Policy and Community Relation Liaison with Envision America. She's on the phone, I believe. And Ms. Glass can also answer Senator Stone's questions in more details. Ms. Glass, are you on?
I am here. Yes, thank you. Charlotte Glass for the record with Envision America. So we are a manufacturer of accessible prescription labeling for the blind, and we provide translation services as well. So I know, I'm just going to explain two different things. I know our software does provide all the warnings. Pharmacists can choose different warnings. Whether those get translated or not is different for each language, I believe. So that is something that is going to be a bigger challenge for, I think, a lot of places, but it's something that we certainly could work on and try and get that implemented. And then as far as the SIGs go, the translation, it doesn't really require another person. So what we have found is that there's basically only about 600 words that are used in all the SIGs, all the common SIGs. And so if we get those 600 words translated, then all the different combinations and permutations of SIGs can easily be created. And then the pharmacist just, verifies that the reverse the software can create the translation. The pharmacist verifies that the reverse translation is what they want, and then they can choose that translation. So it doesn't even really require another person, although there might be other services that have another physical person providing the translation. So not every company obviously uses us, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that it doesn't always require another physical person. Our software is pretty instantaneous, so there is no delay for the pharmacist in getting those SIGs put onto the label. And I am going to confirm, that it is kind of harder to do all the warnings because there's a lot more warnings that are out there than just the 600 words on the SIGs. But so we could, I think some of ours are translated, but I don't think we have all 24 languages available with all the warnings. Hopefully that answers some of those questions.
Thank you. Senator Daly? And then Vice Chair Lang?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mine will be quick, and I think you might have answered it already, and I've been just looking at the language and want to make sure I understanding it correctly. So we're going to try to put the information in English, and then if there's not room, we're going to give you a separate piece of paper for English and whatever second language. But if there is room to put it in English, it says you also have to put it in the second language. I'm assuming only if there's room, right? Because obviously if you start to run out of room when I look at them. So if you can put it in English, it says that you have to also put it in the other language. What's the alternative if there's not room? They're just going to put it in another piece of paper? Because the way it reads now is that they have to. And I'm not sure if it's always going to be enough room. So just a question, that's it.
Thank you, Senator Daly, for the question. Yui Win, Assembly District 8 for the record. Again, I just want to make sure that I reiterate this point. We're not looking to take away anything. All the process, all the existing regulation, all of the warnings, everything is still the same. All we're doing with this bill is just simply adding on the direction part so that we can help those languages population be able to comprehend the amount of medication they take. Going towards Senator Daly's question, we want to make sure that we add this part back in is that there are drugs and medication out there, and not everything is on a bottle. We have some in a box. We have some in different format of the container of the actual drugs. So this particular piece is addressing the ability for the pharmacist to be able to be creative with options like they can attach a flag. You've seen a prescription bottle with a paper coming out and fold it in, and you can actually peel it off to kind of expand it. Some of those are options that the pharmacy can attach onto the bottle. There could be nowadays you can get prescription in a big plastic bag. Inside is the bottle, and there's just so many paper around it. All those information could be locations of some of these information that the patients can get. What we are looking at for this bill, for AB 251, is that we want to make sure that if it's too small to put it on that actual label, that it could be provided in a separate document. And that's something that we work with the Retail Association, and I want to bring the phone a friend in person too. If Liz, if you want to come up and address that, I'd be happy to have you answer the senator's question, if I may, Chair.
And if I can just follow up real quick, and I think I understand, and I've seen the flaps and the labels and various things, but I'm just looking, the words say that if you can put it on there in English, you must also put it in the other language, whether there's room or not. And I'm just saying that you got to do it. So I guess if you can put it on English, and I don't know what all the rules are, but there may not always be room, is all I'm saying.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Liz McMiniman, if I may, for the record, with the Retail Association. Senator Daly, the intent was that in situations, and I'm reading the bill the same as you, and that was not the intent when we discussed this. Actually, I guess we could interpret it two ways, but the intent was that there will be times that these translations will not fit on the bottle with the label in English. So the bottle will still have English, but the translated piece is a piece that will be in English and in the new language on a separate area. It will always be in English on the bottle. If it is requested that the language is translated, then it would, and it cannot fit on the label in a way that it would be able to be attached, then we have the option to then place it on the existing bag or something that the patient, and make it understood so that the patient will have that readily available at all times to be able to understand their directions. So I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure, sir.
It does, and I understand the intent, but that's not what the words say.
Madam Chair, and Senator Daly, we would love to look at that language in details on offline so that we can address that concern. I know that we were trying to get the language in really quickly for the amendments on the other house, but we would definitely have time to look at it again, and maybe with words that could make sure that everybody can understand.
Understood, and the part I think is on line 30 where it says, it starts out, if it's practical to put it on in English, the pharmacy must also put it in the other language, whether it fits or not. I can go to microprint. I mean, we can print the whole, Bible on a grain of rice, so.
You were going for the record. Again, Senator, yeah, I think that's the intent, is that if it fits, then let's put it on there. If it doesn't fit, then let's put it on another location that the patient can access. Yes, I know. We need to figure out a word that everybody will be happy on this one. So thank you, Senator, for that input, and we'll make sure that we address that.
Let's take it offline, and we can talk with legal, okay? Thank you. Anyone else have a question? Questions? Okay, any other presenters? Okay. Ask you to step back, and let's call for anyone who is here in Carson City who wants to testify in support. Would remind people that support, please limit your testimony to about 2 minutes, and if someone else has already said what you want to say, you can say your name and ditto. Okay, so we don't have 10 different people saying the same thing. So, yes, ma'am, start here.
Thank you, Chair Spearman and members of this committee this morning. Liz McMiniman, Retail Association in Nevada. I come to the table in support, and I could spend more than my 2 minutes in talking about the history on this, but most of you have seen me and saw me last session in discussion on this. So we're willing to work with the sponsor. It is real important for our members to make sure patients have access and safe access to their drugs and their medications going forward. So thank you to the senators for their questions regarding this. I do want to direct back to the liability. There is liability stated in this that we feel is very important because a pharmacist would be very concerned putting something out there that they have no idea what the translation says. So we worked very hard with the majority leader last session on the assembly side, got the liability for the pharmacist and the pharmacy concerning any civil case or liability or something that goes wrong going down the road. And the liability would go back onto the translation company as opposed to the pharmacist who has done what they think in their due diligence and their professional judgment to make sure that patient got their medication. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair, members of the committee, Tony Ramirez for the record, Tonyramirez. I am here with Make the Road Nevada. We are an organization here in Nevada that represents immigrant communities, anything surrounding them. We feel this bill would benefit our membership, so we are here in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Carson City? Don't see anyone coming to the table in Vegas. BPS, anyone on the phones?
If you would like to testify in support of AB 251, please press *9 now or raise your hand in the Zoom window to take your place in the queue.
Hi, good morning. This is Zihan Wang, Zihan Wang for record. I would like to testify for AB 251 to require translation labels on prescription pill bottles. I'm here representing my grandmother and thousands of other Nevadans who do not speak English to help give them a voice on this issue. My widowed grandmother, Dinglian Zhou, has resided with me and my family for 6 years, and we provide the necessary care she needs when we get home from school and work, as she does not speak English, only Mandarin and Chinese. Recently, she has been diagnosed with many heart and intestinal problems that have affected her ability to function on a daily basis. It is really difficult to see my grandmother, who has struggled with poverty, war, famine all her life moving to America, just to be struggling to open her pill bottles and to get the medication that she so desperately needs. I know thousands of Nevadans in the Asian Pacific Islander American community struggle with the same problem with their respective medications. I wanted to testify today so that one day I will smile while bringing back medication bottles with translated labels in Mandarin and see my grandmother being able to see her culture be represented, and also just being able to read the labels on her life-saving pills of the daily dosage of her pills. Now, Bill AB 251 could have an impact on thousands of Nevadans, and I trust you to make decisions that will possibly benefit our community. I support Bill AB 251, and I appreciate you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in Las Vegas in support? Come to the table. Anyone else who is in Las Vegas, there's another seat vacant, and so please come to the table if you're in support. Okay. Yes, please begin.
Hello, Chair and Committee members. My name is Amy Koo. I am the Acting Deputy Director with One API in Nevada. We are an organization that advocates for the growing Asian and Pacific Islander community here in Nevada. Our community has grown to over 389,000 strong and is made of many diverse individuals and families. In Nevada, we have the privilege of living in the fourth most diverse state in the nation as determined by census data. This diversity includes more than 68,000 households in Nevada that have at least one limited English proficient member in their household. We know that our hospitals are already overwhelmed with all the care that they need to provide, and this is a simple way to ensure that our limited English proficient communities have access to their medication dosage information, and so they are less likely to end up in hospitals or emergency rooms because of mistaken medication. This is a simple way to make sure that we are making strides to provide language access for our most vulnerable communities, and we are providing a way for our diverse communities to access that information safely. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Las Vegas? BPS, anyone on the phones in support?
One moment, Chair.
My name is Paul Kappa, and I represent the Culinary Workers Union Local 226. The Culinary Union represents workers from 178 countries that speak over 40 different languages. The Culinary Union supports the bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Guerrero, and I'm here on behalf of Battleborn Progress. We're in unwavering support of AB 251, and we thank Assemblyman Nguyen for spearheading this critical measure. Just as my colleague had mentioned, the census data showed that Nevada is one of the most diverse states in the nation. I come from a long line of healthcare providers. My husband's a paramedic, and my mother is a double board certified physician. Regardless of their title or their exact role, they've always rendered a message that we have to meet patients where they're at, and that's exactly what this bill does. This is one of the necessary first steps to ensure that this body addresses the needs of every Nevadan while ensuring that they're meeting community members where they're at. Thank you. Good morning, Chair Stearman and members of the Commerce and Labor Committee. My name is Deanna Hua-Tran. That's DEANNA, space HUA, space TRAN. And I'm the Coalition Coordinator for the Nevada Immigrant Coalition. Here on behalf of the Coalition, the Nevada Immigrant Coalition consists of diverse organizations from across the state that work together to fight for immigration reform and immigrant justice. And the NIC is here in full support of Assembly Bill 251. Growing up, I witnessed how challenging and discouraging it was for my parents to engage in the healthcare system, including going to the pharmacy and feeling comfortable about taking their medications. They often would read the labels a few times and would consult with my brother and I to ensure that they weren't misunderstanding the instructions. And having these prescription labels omitting these would have made them feel more confident and comfortable about managing their healthcare regimen. And while I have personal experience of the obstacles with pharmaceutical language accessibility, my experience as a pharmacy technician also demonstrated to me the importance of having language accessibility for our patients in order to promote safety and quality of care. While our systems were capable of providing translated materials, it was not capable of translating the materials in Amharic, Korean, Mandarin, or Chinese, Spanish, Tagalog, Thai, Vietnamese, French, German, and Russian. This bill would allow our pharmacies to provide responsive language access and reflect the growth of our immigrant, refugee, and asylee communities and the various practice languages of our residents over time. Assembly Bill 251 would improve its predecessor, AB 177, by ensuring that prescription labels are translated into the patient's preferred language and that it parallels the current diverse language makeup that exists in Nevada. We strongly urge your support for AB 251, and thank you for your consideration of the committee on behalf of the NIC. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Preston Tang, for the record, with the Southern Nevada Asian Pacific Islander Queer Society. We're an LGBTQ organization here in Las Vegas. Thank you, Assembly Wynn, for bringing this bill forward. I'm calling in support for AB 251 because as a first-generation Vietnamese young adult, I'm often the translator for my family for medical visits, appointments, and reading prescription directions. Having prescription directions translated in my family tongue would alleviate a lot of challenges for myself and youth who are often the family translator in this situation. Thank you again.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Melena DiMaggio. That's spelled MALENADIMAGGIO. And I'm the Immigrant Rights Program Manager with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. And I am also a member of the Nevada Immigrant Coalition here in support of Assembly Bill 251. Last session, we were really proud to have supported AB 177 with the goal of safeguarding patients, reducing long-term costs, and providing language justice for all Nevadans. And yet this crucial policy has not been implemented statewide yet. AB 251 would set the requirement our immigrant communities need for pharmacies that are enacting this policy. We need to ensure our communities are able to receive their medical information in the preferred language as they rely on these translations for their daily health. We urge the committee to support AB 251. Thank you.
Good morning, chairs and committee members. My name is Kim Lê, spelled K-I-M-L-E, and I'm the president of the Vietnamese American community of Las Vegas. As a growing community with diverse backgrounds, many of our Vietnamese families live in a mixed fluency household, with some folks only speaking Vietnamese. Lack of language access is already a big issue that prevents many of our community members from receiving the care that they need and put a big burden on the families and friends and members to help translate. So AB 251 is a common sense bill that will help many families when it comes to accurately taking the medication prescribed in the dosage and schedule them, schedule what they need to follow, prevent medication, and also to prevent medication emergencies. So we urge you to pass this AB 251. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Matthew Wilkie, for the record, MATTHEWWILKIE. And I work in a local retail pharmacy just right up the road off of Highway 50. I want to thank Assemblyman Wynn for bringing this bill forward. I think that this is extremely important and expands equality in access in healthcare, and more importantly, safe, equitable access in healthcare. I can only speak for my pharmacy that I work at. I do know that a lot of these systems will probably have to be expanded, as my current pharmacy can only translate currently between English and Spanish, between labels, monographs, warnings, etc. However, we all know with Nevada being the vast, vast population we have, we need way more than just English and Spanish, especially at my pharmacy, etc. But I ditto everything, all the comments in support, and I think that this is a good bill going forward. Thank you for your time.
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
We have anyone on the phones? We'll start up here. I don't see anyone moving to the table. Opposition? Las Vegas? BPS, anyone on the phones? Opposition?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to those in neutral. No one's moving to the table here. Las Vegas, BPS, anyone on the phone lines?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Assemblyman Wynn, closing comments. And I just want to say thank you for bringing the bill. I think one of the things that has happened to us here is that we tend to think English is the only language that's around the world, and we live in a global neighborhood. I had the distinct privilege of, when I was stationed in Korea, and in addition to being an MP, being a post chaplain, and a young man was 15, and his mother had been over there since he was 9, and she was going to stay through the time he finished high school. Went back over there, and he'd graduated and had a job with a rather prominent Korean international company. And the time that he'd spent in Korea, he learned to speak, read, and write Korean fluently. And he's a very marketable young man. By the way, he's black. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your service, or services, I should say. You brought up something that I didn't plan to say, but again, sorry. Yui Wen, Assembly District 8 for the record. Not many folks in this building or the state know I am an immigrant. I immigrated to this country when I was 11 years of age, as not many folks knew about that. Coming into California at the age of 11, not a word of English in my vocabulary. Had to learn everything from scratch. So the experience that the typical immigrant going through here in our state is getting better. We need to do a lot more, but there's still a lot of things that are the basics that we still haven't addressed. And hopefully with this bill, AB 251, that we're taking one more step in helping our community be better in terms of ensuring that the most basic needs in terms of health are addressed. And I look forward to your leadership and the most esteemed and hardworking Committee on Commerce and Labor on the Senate to be able to help me get this through and able to serve our community and our growing immigrant community, especially in District 8, where 38% of my residents speak another language. So it's critical that we create access and reduce all the barriers so that we can be a healthy and prosperous Nevada. Thank you very much, Senator, for the opportunity, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Please do not tell Senator Flores that you called us hardworking, okay? All right. And with that, we'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 251 and open the hearing on Senate Bill 276. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Please begin when you're ready, Assemblywoman.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and well, I can't say the hardest working committee, but I think I can. Okay, well, I will, and I have. And happy Friday. I am B. Duran, representing District 11 in Las Vegas. I am here to present Assembly Bill 276, which revises provisions governing telehealth. I have with me today Edith Duarte, Vice President for Nevada Strategies at 360, and Liz Ortenberger, Chief Executive Officer at SafeNest. They are joining me today to help present this bill. I'm going to give you a little bit about background information. The use of telehealth can bring experts to guide other practitioners in providing sexual assault exams to patients throughout Nevada. A healthcare provider may connect with other healthcare providers by using video technology to a remote healthcare provider who has extensive training in how to care for assault survivors and collect evidence for possible criminal prosecution. The use of telehealth improves access and quality of forensic examination and expands access to expertise of healthcare providers to our communities. In addition, some sexual assault survivors reside in rural areas of our state. They must travel hours for a sexual assault exam. When telehealth services are expanded, they can obtain care closer to home. As many of you know, sexual assault survivors face health consequences. Assaults can cause physical injuries, sexual transmitted infections, and mental health conditions. If the survivors are cared for on the front end, those risks can be reduced dramatically with the right intervention. And with your permission, Madam Chair, Ms. Duarte will walk through the bill, and she, along with Ms. Ortenberger, will provide additional information to the committee and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Assemblywoman Duran, for bringing this bill. Thank you, Chair Spearman and members of the committee for hearing this bill. Edith Duarte, EDITH, DUARTE, with Strategies 360, today representing Safe Nest. So I will walk you quickly through this short bill. Paragraph 5 authorizes the use of telemedicine between appropriately trained physicians, physician assistants, or registered nurses located remotely to provide instruction or guidance to a healthcare provider with the sexual assault or strangulation victim who is with them in person for the purpose of conducting a forensic medical examination. Paragraph 6, sub C and D define sexual assault and strangulation. And then the newly created subsection E redefines the definition of telehealth to include the ability for communication between the healthcare providers, one that is with the person, with the patient in person, and the one who is located at a different location.
Good morning, committee. Liz Ortenberger for the record. I'm the CEO for Safe Nest, and thank you to Assemblywoman Duran for bringing this bill forward and for the committee for hearing it today. Our 2022 statewide data, we had 1,700 confirmed rapes. 105 of them were in rural counties. 1,266 were in Clark County, where we have one forensic examiner. Victims are waiting 4, 6, 12, and sometimes 48 hours to receive a forensic rape exam. Survivors cannot eat, drink, change clothes, shower, or even have any water while they are waiting for the exam. This is not the way we will solve the problem of rape, and this is not what victims in Nevada deserve. We want to follow Arkansas, Alaska, Colorado, Texas, and South Dakota in passing telehealth, clinician-to-clinician telehealth exam possibilities for strangulation and for rape kits. No one should have to wait an inappropriate amount of time, travel an inappropriate amount of distance to seek justice. Thank you.
And thank you for your consideration of this measure. We are available to answer any questions the committee members may have.
Thank you. Committee members? Committee members? No? Okay. Senator Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question, just in the new definition in E, and I know this situation you're trying to fix with the evaluation after sexual assault, but would E, and I don't think this would be a bad thing if the answer is yes, would E allow doctors to be able to do this, communicate with each other on different issues, or would we have to specifically allow that somehow? Or is it already happening? Because I think the language would be allow for other things, which, like I said, probably not a bad thing.
Well, the way I read it, Edith Duarte, the way I read it, the provisions of the subsection does not still prohibits the use of telehealth for communicating with providers under other circumstances. So this is for these medical forensic examinations only. And the definition is only changed within the sexual assault and battery definitions for telehealth as well.
Oh, yeah, and I'm going to ask if our legal counsel will weigh in as well, so we can. Okay. Senator Scheibel.
This is more of a comment than a question, but I just want you guys to speak to this because we had talked about this bill before the session, and I think that the science is there, the experience is there. Other places are utilizing this telehealth technology in order to walk through the SANE exams and the strangulation exams. And unlike other medical procedures where, maybe you really do have to be hands-on to be able to palpate the body or something like that, in this case, you do have a medical professional there to do that part of it. And so there really isn't any scientific reason that we couldn't implement this, and it has been done successfully elsewhere, and you're not losing any quality of care for the patient.
Yes, Liz Ortenberger for the record. So this process is governed under the Forensic Nurses Association, and so the hub nurse, which would be the clinician within the environment in which the trained forensic nurse is not present, they really have 3 levels of certification. They can, and the least being that they have no experience doing this, in which case the forensic nurse is leading them piece by piece by piece with the camera and all the evidentiary gathering as they would as if they were in person. And then hub nurses can scale up and have a little bit more qualifications. But this is a governed process. It's not sort of just let's open up the doors and allow this to happen. There are regulations and examples from other states that guide the process for us.
Mr. Fernley?
Can I look into that and get back to you?
Sure. Any additional questions? Senator Stone.
Thank you. Thank you, Assemblywoman, for bringing this bill forward. I think it's really important, having come from a county where I was a county supervisor. We had what was called a sexual assault response team. And not only do you have to collect the evidence, and you got to collect it within a certain period of time, you got to preserve that evidence. And so my question, I guess, is with regard to documentation. If you have somebody remotely that is maybe not familiar with doing sexual assault response exams or strangulation exams, we want to make sure that they have the necessary materials to preserve the evidence, keep it under refrigeration if necessary. And this is very important when it comes to the prosecution, as you know. You got to make sure that all your ducks are lined up and that you have your evidence properly labeled and properly documented. Do you foresee any issues in the community that is seeking these consultations?
Liz Ortenberger for the record. So the dedication has to become that of the rural health providers, right? We don't just simply say this is available and then you can start doing it. There's training required by the facility that would be receiving clients. And so they would then have that training. And then in addition, you have the forensic setup so that the trained nurse is really guiding them through that, talking through the documentation, getting all the pieces so that it would be just as if they were there in person and would hold up on prosecution.
And then lastly, where is the repository for all the evidence after the evidence is collected? Is it sent to a central repository? And then I assume DNA entered into CODIS and things like that?
Yes, so we are not anticipating changing that current process of where things are sent. They will be sent to the same location. It would just be from a different provider.
Thank you. I look forward to supporting this bill.
Additional comments? Mr. Fernley?
So yes, in response to the question of whether providers are authorized under current law to communicate with each other through telehealth when providing care to a patient, I think existing law does allow that to happen for providers to communicate with each other in providing telehealth, and that is because right now the statute says before a provider of healthcare who is located at a distant site may use telehealth to direct or manage the care of a patient. So I think directing or managing the care of a patient would include providers communicating with each other about that care through telehealth.
Senator Daly? Okay. So sound good? Okay. Just this is more of a statement, but yesterday we in the Senate had the privilege of passing Senate Bill 363. And I know the second step to people who are victims of assault or domestic violence, at least 30% of them will wind up homeless. And so as part of the navigating through this tumultuous time for victims, I'd certainly like to get you all support on that, providing housing for women veterans, victims of domestic violence, formerly incarcerated, and seniors who are housing insecure. And I think this is all part of it, because after an assault like this, as heinous as this is, many times the victim can't go back home or doesn't want to go back home because of the shaming and that sort of thing. So thank you this is one of those intermediate steps of helping folks get better. Thank you all for bringing this, okay? Any additional presenters?
B. Duran, for the record, no.
Okay, thank you. So with that, if you step back, we'll open up public testimony in support of Assembly Bill 276 here in Carson City. I don't see anyone moving to the table in Las Vegas. We've got 3 chairs here in Carson City and 1 is vacant. Okay, please begin.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Serena Evans. I'm the Policy Director for the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. Thank you to Assemblywoman Duran and Safe Nest for bringing this important bill forward. Currently, there's only 6 locations throughout all of Nevada where a victim survivor can get a SANE exam. Of those 6, only about half operate 24/7, 365 due to staffing issues. So our rural victim survivors are forced to travel upwards of 6 to 9 hours. With their body essentially being a living crime scene. They're told not to eat, drink, bathe, use the restroom, anything like that. And so a lot of these victim survivors choose to not travel those long periods of time to get a SANE exam. They miss out on the critical health benefits of a SANE exam where they can receive, emergency contraception, prophylactic medication, as well as connection to resources and education about possible health risks. Also not having their evidence collected, they lose out on the opportunity to participate in the criminal justice system. So our current system is not victim-centered. It really places the burden on victim survivors, and so we are in strong support of this bill to reduce barriers. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Sarah Adler with Silver State Government Relations. Today, proudly representing NAPNA, the Nevada Advanced Practice Nurses Association. So as you have heard, this bill creates the opportunity for more immediate care of victim survivors of sexual assault and strangulation. APRNs are the primary care providers who are accessible throughout our state and may very well be the provider who is available to victims in rural areas who can receive the more immediate examination as a result of this bill, allowing an APRN to receive the appropriate direction from the hub nurse. So we are in great support of this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Spearman and members of the committee. My name is Beth Schmidt, SCHMIDT. I represent the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We think this is a great bill. In Clark County, we use the services at UMC, and we are privileged to be able to do that. I think this really will help our folks that are out in the rural areas, so we strongly support this, and we thank the Assemblywoman for bringing it forward.
Anyone else in Carson City in support? Don't see anyone in Las Vegas. BPS, anyone on the phones?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. We'll go now to opposition. Anyone here in Carson City? Opposition? Seeing no one. Seeing no one in Vegas. BPS, anyone on the phone lines?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Let's move now to neutral. Anyone here in Carson City neutral? Las Vegas? BPS, anyone on the phone lines?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Assemblywoman, you all want to come back up? I got a couple of additional questions that I thought of, and you might want to bring your phone of friends. And Sergeant Smith, you may be able to weigh in on this too. I want to say it was 2019 that we did the bill for sex trafficking, and it included a whole lot of things, including sexual assault. And one of the things that the bill required was some type of continuity, if you will, between the time that law enforcement was involved and the victim's road to recovery, as it were. So VOCO, victims of crime, is that an option for some of the women or some of the victims, because sometimes they're men?
Liz Ortenberger for the record. So from the guidelines that we receive, sex trafficking is considered the same as sexual assault. It's paid rape. So that survivor is eligible for an exam if they choose, and then we step in along with other providers in Clark County. And I want to be clear, this is sort of Clark County's resourced differently than the rurals. We step in and provide a continuity of care through the recovery. In the rural environments, a resource may not be available like that. So if a sex traffic provider victim is presenting in, say, Pahrump, they may not have access, they would not have access to a SANE exam. They'd have to come to Clark County for that. They would get engaged with an agency like SafeNest, Tonopah, the same sort of thing. So our rural communities do have a gap in care for survivors, both sexual assault and traffic survivors.
So do they need a SANE exam to be eligible for VOCO?
So I am not familiar with the phrase VOCO. We have Victims of Crime Compensation Fund. So there has to be some connection with law enforcement. It's not required. They can just do a police report, but there is some overlap. Also, as you may or may not know, the Victims of Crime Compensation Fund started before COVID with 12 to $15 million and is at 1.2 million today. Those funds are rapidly running out. So what a victim's eligible for and what they can receive may also start to shift.
Okay. Is there any connection between state and federal victims of crime funding?
There's several different ways, so Liz Ortenberger for the record, there's several different ways that VOCA, Victims of Crime funding, comes into the state. One is the federal funding pot, which is distributed to agencies like SafeNest. Metro receives some for the work that we do in this space. The other is, it comes into that, so that Victims of Crime fund at the state level is funded through court fees and some federal disbursements, is my understanding. But that is the fund, that Victims of Crime Compensation Fund is the fund that is dwindling to zero pretty quickly.
Okay. So I guess the question is really, I guess, answered why the bill is necessary, because if you don't have the option or the opportunity for a SANE exam, then a lot of the other pieces that you are able to string together are not available to the victim if that happens in rural counties.
Liz Ortenberger, let me clarify. The victim is eligible, right? What the SANE exam does is gives them the opportunity to pursue justice against their abuser. They can pursue that without a SANE exam, but it becomes much more problematic from a justice perspective. So yes, both rural clients, but also, as I mentioned, almost 1,300 rapes in Clark County with one forensic examiner. So we're not resourced appropriately as a state in every community. There are just different obstacles to receiving that exam. And let's not forget about our tourist population that may or may not stay here for an exam because it would take a lot of time to get one.
Thank you. Any other closing comments?
B. Duran for the record. Thank you, Madam Chair, and the esteemed Committee on Hard-Working Commerce and Labor in the Senate side. Thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to present AB 276. This is one more measure to bring quality health care to our state and to our victims that are out there. Thank you. I appreciate that and support, and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we will close the hearing on AB 276, and we'll open it up now for public comment. And as a reminder, public comment is not an opportunity to discuss any of the bills that we've talked about today. It is for questions or comments that are completely extraneous to anything that's been on the agenda. And we'd like to remind everyone that public comment is about 2 minutes. So anyone here in Carson City? Don't see anyone. Anyone in Las Vegas? BPS, anyone on the phones?
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And with that, committee, we will be back at working hard on Monday morning. It's coming to be crunch time, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to get through the bills without having to do another Thursday or even a Saturday morning. So I just remind everyone, please look at the bills that we have on file. If you have any detailed questions, make sure you get with the sponsor before meeting. We've got to have every bill out of this House by Monday, or at least through the on the chamber on Monday. And then we've got crunch time coming with the second House passage for committee bills, and then second House passage. So we're at a marathon right now, and I'm just going to ask everyone if you will just bear with us on that. Those of you who have been around for a while know what this means. A lot of work, very little sleep. And so with that, we will be adjourned until Monday at 8 o'clock. We're adjourned.